Get started. For those of you who just joined, hello. Thank you for spending your late afternoon with us. My name is Alicia Johnston, and I am a program officer for Fund for Teachers. I've been there since 2012. So some of you I know, and I'm excited that we're going to be starting a new part of our relationship. We are also joined by Liza Eaton. She is the director. She is the director of projects for the Ramsden community. And so she's going to give you a lot of really good information about that. I'll just go ahead and apologize for background noise here. I am calling in from Houston, Texas. And if you've been watching the news, you kind of know what our situation is. My husband and oldest have the coronavirus. They are isolated upstairs. So it's just me here with my toddler, and I've just been making it work. So I apologize if you can hear nursery rhymes in the background. But we're really excited, like I said, for you to get a little bit more information about what it's going to mean for you to be a Fund for Teachers mentor. Something that I want you to get very familiar with is this chat box. Thank you to many of you who've already responded to Liza's welcome message. We are about to watch a video that we created to introduce the Ramsden Project, and it just puts it so much better than I can. From our fellows to our fellows, what is the Ramsden Project, and what does it mean to be a part of the Fund for Teachers community? So if you'll all take a second to locate your chat boxes, there's 3 dots at the top of your screen. You can just click those, you'll see chat. And while you watch this video, just type in words or phrases that resonate for you, anything that captures your interest, and we're gonna go from there. So right now I'd like for you to take a moment and enjoy this video with us.
A single person can change the world. Some days, that person is you. As a Fund for Teachers Fellow, you are doing something amazing. That's why we want to welcome you to the Ramsden Project, a community of Fund for Teachers Fellows. We've named our community after the Ramsden Sextant, a tool used to help sailors navigate long trips on the open ocean. You are teachers helping your students navigate their own way. And you're also navigators charting your own course to goals that seem so far off, they might as well be stars. The Ramsden Project declares that teachers must hone their skills and craft by pushing the boundaries of their own knowledge. This is our Ramsden Project Charter, our proclamation of what we stand for.
I believe in the power of education.
I believe in the power of my commitment.
I believe in the potential of my students and of the future they must build.
I believe that we all seek the same horizon,
where dreams drift just beyond our line of sight.
Knowable only to the small voice inside of us that says,
what if?
What if? What if?
I help my students still themselves to hear that voice.
I teach them to read their surroundings, hone their skills, and innovate,
so that one day they may reach that distant shore.
I guide them through challenging circumstances and see each sunrise as a new opportunity.
And through all this,
I do not lose sight of my own horizon.
I continue to seek that which builds my own experience and equips me better to move through the world
as a constant force for equity,
achievement,
and change for the better.
I am a lifelong seeker and purveyor of knowledge.
I am an FFT fellow.
I am a part of the Ramsden Project community.
You have proven that whenever teachers ask, what if? They open new horizons for their students. This community will celebrate your successes and connect you with others on the same path. To learn more, visit theramsdenproject.org. Sign the charter and join up with other Fund for Teachers Fellows across the nation to learn from each other and move forward in each of your individual paths, knowing you do not press on alone. This is just the beginning.
Oh, I love that video so much. Okay, so that really kind of that last phrase that was so meaningful to me was learn from each other. And I think you all put really great things: equity, new horizons, community, just the power that you have in your own craft and what you can do to share that with our next class of fellows is really going to be an enriching experience for both you and the 2020 class of fellows. So our agenda for this evening is to talk about what the purpose of the mentorship program is. It's going to look different than previous years. If you participated last year, it was our pilot year. This year, we've done an overhaul. We do listen to your feedback. We've got some new news for you coming up. We also are going to talk about, Liza will talk more about our program arc, and the mentorship is an opportunity for you and what that can look like. You know from experience with Fund for Teachers that we try immediately to connect you with other fellows. The fellows that are in your same class of grant, if you were awarded in 2019, 2018, or before, we try to connect you with the people in your grant class, if you will. But we also have so many opportunities for you to help incoming fellows, for them to unpack the learning that they are about to achieve within their fellowship experience. And then you can maximize together their impact, not just on them because they've created that blueprint for learning. You can really help them stick to a timeline. You can help them with any kind of potential questions they have. You know, anything from as specific as, you know, I've never traveled overseas. How do I get the best rate of currency exchange? Like, how do I do that? To how do I maximize my impact for the students once I return? So we're looking for you to have a broad range for this relationship to really enrich their experience all the way around. And also how this could also, this says, how might a mentor be helpful to you, but how might a mentee be helpful for you? Forgive me for that. So we think that this would help you also because you're teacher leaders in your community, and some of you have already been instructional coaches or have some experience teaching other teachers. So this is really going to be something that you can grow and develop your skills as far as leading other teachers and other educators. I'm going to turn it over to Liza, who is also a fellow, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about a very strong fellowship that we can reference and use as a wonderful example. So here's Liza.
Yeah, so thank you so much for being here. My name is Liza Eaton, and I am the director of Ramsden Programs. And so, as Alicia said, I'm also a 2009 fellow. And looking back on my fellowship, which I've been thinking about a lot lately, I know that there were times throughout my fellowship, through planning it, implementing it, and then coming back and having it impact my classroom, where it would have been so beneficial to have someone as a thought partner, someone to help me really maximize the impact of my fellowship in my classroom. And so that's why we created the mentor program. And that's why we're so excited that you're here, because we're hoping that from your experience, you will be able to help fellows really maximize their fellowship. Their fellowship isn't over when they get back from their summer learning experience. Instead, it's over the next year or perhaps several years later, once you've really tried to implement and consider how you might use what you learned in your classroom and in your community. So because that's the purpose of the mentor program, we really need to, I really want to share with you a fellowship that's really strong. Because for each of us to be able to guide a fellow, we need to have a similar idea of what quality looks like. So meet Danielle Wilson. She's the woman in the white tank top in that top picture. She's from Zionsville, Indiana. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about her fellowship because I think it's a really strong one. And as I share, I'd like you just to take some time to think about, well, what makes this fellowship so strong? If you want to, if it helps you stay engaged, you can drop those into the chat box too. Okay, so Danielle realized that she had some challenges in her classroom. Her students regularly reported feeling really sheltered, like they lived in a bubble, that they were rarely exposed to diverse cultures and perspectives, and yet the state standards demanded that they develop cultural understanding. Many of our students never really leave the community or the part of Indiana where they live. And in some cases, don't even leave their neighborhood. So much so that many students don't even realize that in their community, 13% of children face food insecurity. And 41,000 families access their food pantries regularly. So she knew that she had this challenge, really an opportunity to try to dig in and try and serve her students in a different way, and perhaps serve their community in a different way. So she created her fellowship, which included going to work in a food outreach program. So what I really love about this fellowship is that she didn't just go observe the food outreach program, but she actually went and volunteered there. Because she thought that that was really connected to the child food insecurity, and really being connected to a food outreach program might help her create something like that in her own classroom or maybe in her own school. This food outreach program happened to be in Ho Chi Minh City, and that was another connection. Danielle teaches high school social studies. And so 4 or 5 of her units touch in some way on the Vietnam War. And so while she had taught the curriculum many times before, she felt like there were real gaps in her understanding about Vietnam, about the culture of Vietnam, and actually about the war itself. And so that was another one of her goals, is really trying to understand deeply so that she could, continue to build more cultural understanding with her students. And she also had a third piece of her fellowship, which was about exploring the idea of using oral history to develop perspective taking. She hadn't really done any projects like that before, but she thought that if she could get connected to some people in Vietnam, that might help first build some good resources for her units, but also might help her experience what it's like to develop an oral history, so that she could then ask students to do that and be prepared to support them. So that's pretty exciting. She went off and did her fellowship, and then when she came back, the impact was really noticeable. Not only did she revamp her curriculum using the pictures and the videos and all of the resources from her fellowship to help enrich her curriculum, but she also created this brand new project, this oral history project. And so that was another really powerful piece of her impact. And the third thing is that she took on a food drive. Now, the school had had a few food drives in the past, but it was always sort of organized by parents or maybe by teachers, and the students brought stuff in and dropped it off. Well, she turned that on its head, and it became a project that the students led and directed. You can see the pictures of the students in the center, well, one of her students in the center picture, where they're working on organizing and sorting, and then they actually ended up distributing all of the food for this food drive. So this is a really powerful fellowship. I'm curious, it looks like some people have dropped in some ideas about what makes this fellowship a really strong one. So I see some people saying really building connections and the variety of experiences. If you haven't added any ideas into the chat box, just take a minute to do that. What makes this fellowship really strong? Mm. Great. There's some really good ideas here. Very clear need and explanation. I love that you bring that up. That's really important. Being inspired, not just for your students, but also for yourself. Oh, this joint learning, I love that. The collaboration, not just between teachers or adults, but also with the students in the community. Great, some really good ideas. One of the things that we've been trying to do is try to hone what makes Fun for Teachers really a unique professional learning opportunity. And so this next slide really connects to a lot of the ideas that you're just dropping in the chat box. So our goal is really to ignite teacher leadership, which I think that you can see through Danielle's fellowship. And as a couple of you said, one of the things that was a real strength is the seek opportunity. Number one, she identified what her problem of practice was. And then collaborated not just with the people where she went on her fellowship, but also with teachers and students and her community. I think I didn't talk too much about the using resources wisely, although she did gather a number of resources which she used for her to revise her curriculum. But she also got the opportunity to interview some veterans and then use that experience to help her create a better project. So in some ways, that's a really unique way of trying to use resources. Clearly, she turned what she learned into action in her classroom. It wasn't just she came home and showed some pictures of her fellowship or shared her blog posts, but she really made some transformational change in her classroom. And all of that demanded risk, right? It's risky to admit that you've been teaching this curriculum for 5 years and you have gaps in your understanding. It's risky to take on new projects to change the way you teach. It's risky to try a community project. There were a number of places where she really clearly embraced risk. And I really appreciate about her fellowship how she turned this around and put students in the seat of change maker, right? That she's really trying to help students consider how can they do these same things? How can students seek opportunity? How do students collaborate together? How do they, like her project at the end where they were working on the food outreach program, right? What was actually mimicking exactly what her fellowship did for her. Okay, so I share this with you because this, actually, can you scooch back, Alicia? This slide right here really represents what we're hoping you can help support fellows to do, right? I bet as you're looking at this list, you can identify places where you might say, oh gosh, that would have been really helpful. If I had had somebody to be my thought partner around turning ideas into action, that would have been really helpful. If I had had a thought partner to help me really think about what resources I needed to collect and how I might use them, that would have been really helpful. And so that's why we're asking you to step up and try to be mentors, to help be thought partners. They always say hindsight's 20/20, right? Now, having been a fellow, I can think of 20 ways I might use a mentor. And we met with some mentees yesterday, and they're just so excited in identifying all these needs they have for you. And so I hope this kind of gets you excited about the purpose, all right? All right, so now let's talk a little bit about the arc of the project. This is a unique year because all of these fellows have had their fellowships deferred. Right now, they should be out on their summer learning experience. But because of COVID, they're not. All of that money is set aside, so they're ready to go for next year. And we're just moving ahead, planning on having a vaccine or solution so that people can be traveling, right? And these fellows, while they're the cream of the crop because they were selected, know that there are real opportunities for them to try to improve their fellowship. And so the first phase right now is for you to work with them to help them prepare for their learning. So that would happen between now and when they come back from their summer learning experience in 2021. So this is the first phase. Let me just break it down for you. So the next slide is just going to give you a sense of, okay, August. So in August, what would happen is that you would and the mentees would create a profile. This profile would outline a little bit of information about their fellowship, about what they teach, what their areas of expertise are, and we are going to ask the mentees to set a goal or a set of goals. What do you want to try to improve with your fellowship? And what mentor might help you try and get there? And so they'll actually use this opportunity to pick one of you because of your areas of expertise. You then would have the opportunity to get together with them, talk about their goals, set some common expectations, and maybe a regular meeting cadence. That's all that would happen in August. Okay. Then between September and May, Alicia, this is the next slide, between September and May, before they go out on their summer learning experience, you would meet with them periodically, perhaps about once a month for 20 or 30 minutes or so, to share resources connected to their goal, to discuss those resources, to come up with ideas based on their goal. Okay. Then they would go off on their summer learning experience, and you may interact during that time or not, but really this is on them to turn their ideas into action, right? To try to act on the learning that they did with you, the revisions they did to their fellowship. And then when they come back from their fellowship, then they would have the opportunity to set goals again and perhaps select a new mentor, or perhaps you two would stay connected. And then through the next school year, really work together to try to implement, really maximize impact. Okay, so some of you may be looking at this and thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, this seems like a huge time commitment. Let me break it down for you. Okay, so there's 2 phases, right? So the first phase is preparing for learning. That's from now until their fellowship in next summer. We think that this would take about an hour to 2 hours a month, right? So I'm thinking, like, if you have 2 mentees, not just 1, but 2, it would take you about an hour to 2 hours per month. So maybe like a half an hour meeting, perhaps finding a couple resources, perhaps coming to a support or training, get some support or training from us. Okay, and so that's really the commitment. So when you think about all of the things that I showed in that program arc, it really just breaks down to that simple amount. Now, you have the opportunity of choosing, do you want just 1 mentee? Do you want 2? But we've maxed it out at 3. You can't take more than 3 mentees. I know some of you are like overachievers and you're like, I could take 5. That's just too many, okay? So this is what we think it's going to take. All right, so the next slide is supports for you. One of the things that we learned last year, for some of you that were fellows, or excuse me, mentors, was that, well, first of all, nobody really realized what the purpose of the mentor program was. And second of all, we didn't offer you any support to try to help you help your mentees. And so there's 2 main supports that we think we have to offer you. We're open to other ideas, but these are the 2 things. One is a really clear program outline. So that means not just this beautiful picture, but actually like a set of steps that you would move through, with communication that would go not just to you, but also to the fellow, to the mentee. All right, they would be setting up their goals, so that would help them be more invested, but we would also be helping you with that program outline. The program outline includes like the steps to go through, possible meeting agendas, reminders from us, things like that. So you can see my little code, I have these little stars, and so at each step of the way, basically I'm telling you, okay, there's going to be a program outline for you. All right. And then the second real support that we're going to put in place are optional mentor sessions. We're still working out what those will look like, and they'll really depend on need. So some ideas that we have are, one, just a regular optional mentor meeting that's organized like a dilemma protocol. Like, I'm having this dilemma, my mentee really needs this, I'm having a hard time, what should I do, right? The second idea that we have around providing mentor sessions is choice-in sessions about specific topics. So for example, if we notice that a lot of fellows are trying to support their mentee with like project-based learning, for example, that we would maybe run a short session with some resources that you can turn around and share with fellows. Now, of course, that would be optional because you may have those as skills for yourself. You may already have those skills, but this is a real opportunity for you to be able to connect with other mentors and problem solve and that kind of thing, get what you need. So this is another major change that we've made to the mentor program this year. We hope that this really will feel supportive for you. Again, the second thing, while it sounds like another layer of time, it is optional. And I built it into my 1 to 2 hour average because we think those will be pretty short meetings, okay? All right, so next slide is all you.
Okay. So we have selected a platform for helping you to manage your mentorship relationships. It is the Cronus software. So what will happen is you'll get an invitation to create your online profile. It's similar. I'm going to actually show you an example of this real quick. It is similar. Let's see.
While Alicia's doing that, some of you probably know this, but what we've done in the past is try to connect people based on where they've gone, right? Or perhaps maybe try to connect people based on topic. But we realize, one of the things we realize is that it really varies from mentee to mentee what they need. We really are trying to steer mentees away from just getting like travel tips and really towards learning. And so we identified this software, and I know you might be rolling your eyes like another software, but we identified this really cool, slick software that will help us really empower mentees and mentors to have more ownership over the process and allow us to streamline communication. And the most important part is really setting up your profile. So Alicia's going to show that.
Yeah, so the profile is going to be something similar to what you did when you created your cover sheet. And so we just ask you some basic information here, but also you can identify your school, a little bit of details about what your fellowship experience was like. And then what we really want you to focus on is this last section where we ask you about your areas of expertise. And as you look at all of these, I mean, please, if you are on your screen right now when you are reading these and you can identify anything that we are missing or need to add, please put that in the chat box. Because one of the benefits of using a software to connect all of you is that we will continue to get your feedback of how everything is working so that we can make changes and make this more user-friendly and intuitive and up-to-date. It already really is. But back to this section, we want to allow you an opportunity to tell us what are your strengths? How have you been able to impact your community in your classroom as a result of your Fund for Teachers Fellowship? And these are some areas where we will help to secure you a match, a good solid match for a mentee to work with. As Liza said in the past, we've been able to connect you based on destination. We really want to enrich this opportunity for you because I know those mentees have questions right off the bat about how do I travel? What is the culture? Where do I go? What should I see? But they also are going to have more elaborate questions. During their fellowship, they may ask you, okay, I've set up this timeline and I've planned for all of these things, but what happens if something unexpected comes along? How do I, anticipate or get approval for or follow my learning if it's an unexpected impact on my fellowship? And then when they come back into the classroom, these teachers, you all as Fund for Teachers Fellows, you've identified needs, and you're always looking for the next opportunity to hone your skills and augment your instruction. And so if there are opportunities that these fellows see that they need help with once they return, we can give you a good match based on your expertise in that area. If they find a gap in their knowledge, we can get you together here. So that's the software. There's going to be a whole lot to do with it. We're still setting it up on the back end. So I can't really show you what it will look like yet for you to sign in as your mentor or mentee. But like I said before, it is extremely intuitive. So you'll be able to see that pretty soon. Your profile can be set up as early as July 15th. That's when we plan out sending you an invitation. And it will, it will just ask you and tell you, prompt you to get online and fill out your profile. We assume that's only going to take you about a week. It's very simple. And then on the 22nd, or I should say during the 15th through the 22nd, all of the mentees, all of the 2020 fellows, they will also be building their profiles. So then on the 22nd, we will email all of you and your matching will go live. And so you'll be able to see, which is the mentees are self-selecting. So they will be seeing your profile. They will be using that algorithm for who would be a good match for them to secure who their relationship would be. Does all of that make sense? Oh, I think I went back to the PowerPoint.
Right now, what we are seeing is Cronus still. There we go.
The PowerPoint? Sorry about that. I thought I switched over. Is that better, Liza?
Yeah, you got it.
Great. So again, the 15th through the 22nd, you'll set up your profiles. The 22nd, we'll start matching so that the mentees can select you as their mentor based on the number of mentees you've agreed to take on. And then that will happen all by the end of July. So we want you to be set up with your new relationships, your new mentorship relationships by the end of the month. So I'm going to let you all, think about that. If you have any questions, there's going to be, online support for you. We are happy and we've worked really hard to pick a platform that we thought was just going to be really simple. You're able to chat right on the platform. You can access your calendar and tell someone what are your best meeting times. All of that can be done within the Cronus software. So you don't have to take this offline and figure out if you each have Gmail and exchange phone numbers. You can do it right there on the Cronus site. And like I said, we're always trying to get your feedback to make things more meaningful for you. And so we'll send out some surveys and hopefully get your feedback so that we can continue to make improvements. So we know this.
So what questions do you have for us? We really want to make sure that you understand. I hope you're walking away from the session understanding how much we've adjusted the program from last year for those of you that were involved based on your feedback. And for those of you that weren't involved, hopefully you're really clear about what this mentor experience might look like and how important it really is for our mentees. So if you have questions, drop them in the chat box. We're just going to watch them come up and then start answering some of those questions. And if for some reason you need to jump off, you can jump off and send us your questions via the email address right there.
Okay, so here's a really good question. Do you encourage us to read their proposal before submitted? Well, okay, so you're not going to have access to their proposal. So you will get the profile that they set up will tell you a brief description of their program, where they intend to go, what they're going to learn about, some personal things about them and their career. And then so everything that you'll learn about what their fellowship is going to be through your relationship. So we're not actually posting proposals online. Though I have heard a fellow say, which I thought was a great piece of feedback, that they reread their proposal right before they left or when they were making plans to leave so that they could have a refresher of everything that they planned to do and every goal that they had was met that way by keeping into it. So you may ask for them to share the proposal and they can certainly do that on the Cronus site.
And yes, this is for fellows who have already been accepted. So they've already gone through the process of the same process that happened for you, where it was vetted and then selected and so on. And so they all know that their funds have been deferred, but they still get to go. And even still, they see this real need. Like the excitement yesterday was awesome. They still feel this real need for trying to refine and revise and get some help. So that's really the purpose of this mentor program, not to like kick them off the boat because they already got the fellowship, but to help them really maximize their impact. Ruth, when you say reapply, do you mean reapply for a Fund for Teachers fellowship, or do you mean reapply as a mentor? You don't really have to reapply as a mentor.
But if you're reapplying as a Fund for Teachers fellow in 2021, I mean, I guess that's how I was reading it. Yes, you can reapply. So if you commit to this and you're able to reapply and end up traveling at the same time as your mentee, that's great. I mean, it's whatever you feel like you are able to take on. And I think you said something earlier in the chat box specifically about helping teachers with their applications. And so you thought this sort of timeline and time commitment was doable. So really just look at your own workload and see if you're able to just pick up one mentee this year. If you plan on reapplying, we'd still love to have you participate.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught that, but we're going to have 2 sets of fellows out in the field next summer on their learning experiences. So that'll be exciting.
Okay, so I think this may be something to address too, because so often we ask for previously awarded fellows to help an applicant. And we still may be emailing you from time to time to look at that, but everyone who's going to be logging into the Cronus system is a 2020 fellow. And I know Liza just said that, but I wanted to be sure that everyone was understanding that these are fellows that are going on their learning expeditions the summer of 2021.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Wow, we must have just knocked it out of the park, Alicia. There's no questions. Well, of course, if you think of something later this evening, oh, there's one. I'll keep saying what I was saying and then Alicia can answer that one. If you think of something tonight or later this week that you're just wondering about the mentor program, please feel free to drop us an email. If you know other Fund for Teacher fellows, past fellows that would be awesome mentors, please send them our way. Even if they can't make one of these webinars, we'll catch them up because we're recording them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so just to make sure everyone's clear, you don't have to go looking for the Cronus site. We will send you an email invitation to create your profile, and we will have that out on July 15th. So if for some reason a few days passes after that date and you don't get anything, feel free to send us an email and we will make sure to resend. That's going to be to your primary email address, whatever you've listed as your primary email address in Fund for Teachers. We are excited for you too. We think this is going to be a really great opportunity for both you and the mentees. I know that they are, just so looking forward to having someone to talk about their fellowship with again, because there was all this excitement leading up to being awarded, and then to be pushed back a summer has been really devastating for a lot of people. And I know it's the most safe option, and so I stand by it, but they really want someone to talk to about what's going to happen on their fellowship and what they can do. So this is a great opportunity for you to begin in that way, and then to really evolve into something more meaningful in their classroom the year when they return, and the year after that, and the year after that.
All right, well, I think that's it. Nothing like ending webinar 20 minutes early. That's pretty good.
Right.
We hope that you have a great evening. We're so pleased that you're interested in being a mentor, and we hope to see your profile up on Cronus soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Let us know if you have any more questions.
We'll stay here for a couple minutes if you have an individual one.